Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the pleasure of being joined by my partner, Matt, World Championship Shipman. How are you today, Matt?
I'm great, Brian. How are you, my select friend from Keeneland?
Select friend from Keeneland. Yes, we're brought to you by Keeneland Select today. HorseCenter is all about the Breeders' Cup, Matt. We are a week and a half away. Things are starting to heat up. We're going to analyze the races as best we can this week. We had the pre-entry drawing yesterday. They're due to be released tomorrow. We know some of the information, not all of it, but let's jump right in, Matt, if that's okay with you.
That'll be fantastic. Nothing better.
Let's do it. Breeders' Cup talk. I love this week and a half. Anticipation is building, and it's building for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Now, Matt, as you know, Beholder arrived across state yesterday. She's at Keeneland, but there was a little bit of a fever. And of course, after last year when Beholder missed the Breeders' Cup because of a fever and some mistraining, everybody's on pins and needles hoping that she's going to be okay.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly is one of the big storylines. Can Beholder ship across the country? And I know we've touched on it a little bit before, Brian, but I think we need to talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah, we will, Matt. And hopefully this was just it was supposed to be a small fever. We're going to know more tomorrow. Mandela's there with her. He's going to keep a close eye on her, of course. But it was a very small fever that she spiked today. Hopefully it was just a small reaction from her trip from California to Kentucky yesterday, and she'll be fine, resume training soon, and be 100%. She's going to need to be 100%, Matt, because I think some of these 3-year-olds are good. We have a Triple Crown winner, our first in 37 years, American Pharoah. And then there's Keen Ice and Frosted, and the three of them put on quite a Travers a little while ago.
Yeah, it was a memorable Travers where those 3-year-olds just ran their hearts out, all three of them, and I think they're all coming into the Classic in peak form.
Yeah, that is one of the few races for the Breeders' Cup Classic that was actually prepped at 1.25 miles. And I think you're right, Matt. I think all three in their own way ran huge races. Frosted really took the race to American Pharoah in the middle part, and that kind of set things up for the late running, the late developing Keen Ice, who ran huge to win the Travers. But all three horses are top horses in my estimation. Sure, American Pharoah is the king of the heap right now, but he showed just a little bit of vulnerability in the Travers, and these other 2 3-year-olds obviously aren't too far behind.
Yeah, no question about that. And just reports coming out of New York about the training of Frosted. Frosted's upstate in Saratoga at the beautiful, beautiful Green Tree Training Center, which is just on the other side of the property from the Saratoga racetrack. And I tell you, the word coming out of Belmont about honor code since his last race, he is just supposed to be absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, well, we talked about that Kelso upset in which he ran third to Appealing Tail and Red Vine in the slop. Probably didn't mean a whole lot. It was just a prep. So yeah, honor code is another one. Keen Ice is doing well in Kentucky. Obviously, Tonalist is doing well in New York. But what about American Pharoah? The first reports from California post-Travers, and I think it's fair to say Saratoga is a track that could be tiring, especially what American Pharoah went through in that race. So we shouldn't hold too much against him. But the first reports were that he came back to California a tired horse. His last workout, Matt, looked like the old American Pharoah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm hearing. I mean, those first reports and then, a couple weeks or so after the Travers were a little bit scary in terms of Pharoah being ready. Weight loss, really tired, but the reports are that the old American Pharoah is back and training the way he trained when he was at his best.
Well, that's good news, Matt, because he's an outstanding horse, one of the best 3-year-olds we've seen in a long time. Obviously, a Triple Crown winner. We want him and all the rest to be at 100% for the Classic. It looks like American Pharoah is definitely headed in that direction. Now, Beholder, Gary Stevens, you can't say enough about Beholder. How many times have we heard since that unbelievable Pacific Classic run that she ran against a bunch of older males in California? How many times have we heard Gary Stevens say, "This is the best horse I've ever ridden. This is the best horse that I will ever ride." You know, he's in his 50s now, so maybe that's less of a jump than maybe a 25-year-old rider. But yeah, Beholder has been huge this year. We want her to be at 100% come Breeders' Cup Classic in what, Matt, 11 days?
Yeah, without question. And I'm sorry to hear that there was that little blip for Beholder. But, Brian, getting back to the question of Beholder shipping, and you've touched on it before. I went back and looked at the video of the Kentucky Oaks, which I know was a couple years ago or more now in 2013. Let me tell you what, racing fans that are interested in this classic should go back and watch that replay. And I know we're gonna show some of it here. Beholder was flat out impressive in that race. Beat the entire field, fairly brisk pace, just to get run down by Princess of Silmar, who became a superstar that year. There was no disgrace in Beholder's performance or loss. And if you watch that, you got to stop worrying about the shipping part. I mean, hopefully this fever goes away, and that's a moot point. But I'll tell you what, I'm discounting that in my when I think about the Classic. The thing that concerns me most about Beholder is she's facing a monster field here. She's facing the kind of field that she has never faced before. The Pacific Classic doesn't measure up to this field in any way. She's facing the Triple Crown winner. She's facing a couple of fantastic three-year-olds. She's facing Honor Code, who right now is reported to be a monster. That's the biggest thing that I have to worry about, that concerns me about Beholder. I know she's good. She's never been better, but she's never faced a field like this.
Fair enough, Matt. The Kentucky Oaks, as we've always said, was a huge performance. Midnight Lucky was one of the fastest fillies in the nation, and she had to chase her through a very fast opening 2-3 furlongs in there. She put her away, and then, of course, she was game as could be, pulling away from a really good field, other than Princess of Silmar, who she battled to the wire and got beat a half length. Now, I think there are concerns that she just doesn't act herself when she ships, and maybe some of that is being manifested in the ship yesterday and the slight fever today. But like we said, you can't hold the fact that she hasn't won a race outside of California too much against her when you see a performance that, as for a three-year-old Beholder, was just lights out in the Kentucky Oaks. Honestly, it was. We've talked about the big five: Beholder, American Pharoah, Keen Ice, Honor Code, Frosted. I think we need to throw Tonalist in there a little bit. Tonalist is a true mile-and-a-quarter horse. Is he going to fire his best shot away from Belmont? Honestly, he's been a horse that's run his best at Belmont, a Belmont Stakes win, 2 Jockey Club Gold Cup wins, 5 of his 6 wins are at Belmont. Now, some of his races, if you look outside of Belmont, aren't bad. I think we're going to watch the Whitney, in which Honor Code came from the clouds to nail Liam's map, the talented Liam's map on the wire. Tonalist was behind him for some reason and really ran a good race. And I think Tonalist is perfectly capable of running big outside of Belmont.
Yeah, and again, he's a really quality horse, and we have to give him a chance to run his best race in Kentucky.
Matt, if you said that Tonalist is the best horse equipped for 10 furlongs in this entire race, I probably wouldn't argue with you.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I certainly like Keen Ice going the distance also.
Yeah, true. Travers winner. All right, Matt, we were looking at that Whitney with that great come from behind. This was, of course, 9 furlongs at Saratoga, different than 10 furlongs at Keeneland. That great comeback victory, last-ditch effort win for Honor Code over Liam's map. Let's transition into the dirt mile a little bit. The races that Liam's Map ran at Saratoga make him a deserving, pretty big favorite in the dirt mile, the Whitney, and then, of course, when he returned without honor code and tonalist in the Woodward, and he just won for fun.
Yeah, super impressive performance in the Woodward. You know, it seems like a lot of people are kind of just like saying, "Oh, Liam's Map, dirt mile, easy win." They're going for the easy win. I don't know. Not so fast, my friend Brian Zipsy. I don't think that this dirt mile is going to be a walkover for Liam's Map. You got some speedy horses in there who are going to be out running early, who are going to make life not easy on the front end for Liam's Map. Appealing Tail, super fast horse. He's going to go and he's going to run. Braidster, another very, very fast horse. These are horses that are going to go to the lead. And if that's what Liam's Map's going to do, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, no, I agree, Matt. There's a ton of speed in here, as there often is in the dirt mile. This is a two-turn race. I think if you're betting on your Keeneland Select account and you see Liam's Map there, like we think he might be at 3-5, 4-5, it's a race where you might want to take a shot. Appealing Tail is quality speed. He's sprinter speed who has proven that he can be very effective at a mile and 16th. So he's going to make life tough for Liam's Map, the favorite. Also, I think you mentioned Braidster. Valid is capable of adding to that fast pace. It sets it up for some other horses. I think Red Vine, the reformed turf horse for Christophe Clement, has gotten very good and is due for a big one. Wicked Strong, if the pace is really fast, might be the one that's really flying at the end. And I tell you what, there's a $1.5 million yearling in here, Matt, named Iron Fist for Jerry Hollendorfer. He's undefeated at a mile. He broke his maiden, his allowance wins. He went through conditions at the distance of a mile, which I think matters. Mile horses are mile horses, and he's getting better and better. His Pennsylvania Derby map, where he gave Frosted a race and then just was way ahead of every other good three-year-old in that Pennsylvania Derby, shows me that he's coming around. Maybe Liam's Map is beatable.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that race has the chance of a bunch of horses collapsing in the front end and bombs away on the closers.
Bombs away. We like to see it. Liam's Map, though, on paper is the deserving favorite. Now, in the juvenile, we have another deserving favorite in Nyquist, who has won 3 graded stakes, 2 grade ones. He's 4 for 4 in California. I don't like him, Matt. How about you?
I don't like him at all.
You don't like him at all. Okay. Nyquist, folks, he's been very, very good in California. He's the deserving leader of the division. But I think what we see out there is Swipe is getting closer and closer to him. His first race around 2 turns, mile 16th, and the front runner was less than impressive. I think the Eastern horses, if not Swipe as well, are going to have their day with Nyquist in the juvenile.
Yeah, I think I really like the juvenile field. It's really interesting. I think if folks haven't read your most recent article about the field of the juvenile, they should take a look at that because I think you touch on it really well, Brian. But it's a really interesting quality field with a lot of horses, with a lot of talent, showing the late running style, and already have made it clear that getting the distance of the juvenile and maybe beyond in the future isn't out of their scope. Horses like Brody's Cause, like Exaggerator, who I'm sure you'll talk about a little bit more in a moment, like Greenpoint Crusader. These are quality horses with quality pedigrees and quality connections that can run.
Yeah, one of the points of that article yesterday, Matt, was this juvenile, more than a lot of juveniles, seems to be a little less precocious 2-year-old, and it's held in Kentucky. So I think some of these horses we're seeing in the juvenile this year are going to be around come Kentucky Derby time, and maybe we have a Kentucky Derby winner running in the juvenile. You mentioned Brody's Cause. He's come from the clouds at both Churchill and Keeneland to impressively win, including the Grade 1 Breeders' Futurity. I thought Exaggerator wasn't 100% that day, and I love this colt. He's a son of Curlin, made a big, impressive move to split horses, gained the lead easily, and then he came up a little short late. I think he'll be better for the juvenile, so I like him. He's my top pick. Yeah, Greenpoint Crusader. There's a few others in here. I think can move forward. But yeah, it's a true harbinger of things to come, of good things to come for classic horses, more so than a bunch of sprinters facing off in this year's juvenile.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point about this juvenile. The juvenile tends to be a race where there are a lot of horses in there, those precocious 2-year-olds that like to run close to the lead, run fast, who the distance is already a huge question on. And we got all these horses in this juvenile where that's not the case. So maybe a little bit of that stigma of the juvenile not being a race that produces Kentucky Derby contenders will not be as prominent this year.
I'm looking forward to it, Matt. I think it's going to be a very interesting juvenile and one that I'm really looking forward to betting. Now, speaking of fast horses, let's transition into the turf sprint. Matt, this race looks wide open. I was one of my top horses was Ageless, but I don't think she's going to make it after that gash she suffered when winning at Keeneland the other day over Lady Shipman. I know Lady Shipman is one of your favorites.
Yeah, without question, you gotta like her in here, especially now with Ageless gone. But it's a good field and a fast field. You know, it's a race that began back in 2008. It's a race that the favorite has won 3 times in the 7 runnings. But along with that, there have been some bombs. 36-1 shot back in the day that gave Richard Migliori his only Breeders' Cup win. But hey, you've got Undrafted, who was so impressive winning at Royal Ascot, and Lady Shipman. Last year's winner, Bobby's Kitten, is in the race. I don't know if the 5.5 furlongs is the best distance for him, though.
Yeah, the shorter distance too, I worry about for Undrafted. I love that horse. I always have. Really top quality sprinter. I'm kind of looking more towards horses like Pure Sensation, who's a real short distance specialist, and the 3-year-old Ready for Ryan, Matt, maybe just getting this good where he can have enough speed to stay close and then really pounce like a lot of these turf sprints are won. We're going to keep moving, Matt. We're brought to you folks today by Keeneland Select, and now we're going to talk juvenile turf, Matt. And I think we need to show the recent Bourbon Stakes at Keeneland. The Bourbon Stakes was very impressive. Aeroforce, his second start for the Cassie Barn, won in very impressive fashion. I think this is the key prep for the juvenile turf this year. And the horse that was running second there was Camelot's Kitten, and he really has a late turn of foot. So I think those are the top 2 American choices for me so far for the juvenile turf.
Yeah, and Aidan O'Brien's going to have his a couple horses coming over, and you know, you certainly can never discount any horse that Aidan O'Brien brings to the Breeders' Cup. He's won 8 Breeders' Cup races already in his career, and the Euros have done pretty well in this juvenile turf.
Yeah, the Europeans are always tough in here. Now, interestingly, I think Air Force Blue is definitely his best 2-year-old. So he's bringing Washington, D.C., a classy horse, and also Waterloo Bridge, 2 horses that certainly could win this against our juvenile turf horses. But it's not his best. So I'm looking for maybe Air Force or Camelot Kitten to get the job done for America. Let's talk about the fillies real quick, Matt. The juvenile turf fillies, I think we got to start with Cassie again because Catch a Glimpse just looked great in winning the Natalma up in Woodbine.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, as we said before, Cassie's got a big hand this year. But you know, we've got some other horses who ran some decent races. I think Harmonize for Bill Mott, who won the Jessamine at Keeneland. So a win over that turf course is also one to consider.
Yeah, Harmonize went way wide that day. Also very impressive. Harmonize, more of a rallier, it looks like, and Catch a Glimpse, more of a speed filly, are probably the top 2 North Americans going in. Again, Aidan O'Brien, we got to mention him. He's kind of ubiquitous in these 2-year-old turf races. He's bringing Alice Spring, who's a very talented Irish-bred filly. So the juvenile filly turf, we're going to talk about this a little bit more next week when we have the fields a little bit more solidified, but they're taking nice shape. Matt, you did a great job with, what did we talk about? 6 of the Breeders' Cup races. We're going to talk about 7 more in a couple days. HorseCenter twice this week.
Can't beat that. Twice a week. I'd do it every day if we had time, Brian.
Well, not me. I would take at least Sunday off, Matt. 6 days a week is enough. HorseCenter, folks, I hope you enjoyed it. We were brought to you by Keeneland Select. I want to thank Matt Schiffman for being such a great co-host.
Thank you, Brian. It's always a pleasure working with you also.
And Ember Moore, our wonderful producer. Folks, Breeders' Cup, Breeders' Cup, Breeders' Cup. We love talking about it. I hope you love watching. We're going to be back in a few days. See you then.